What's good? What's up? Dom here. Today we're going to be looking at Canon's EOS Webcam Utility that can change your Canon DSLR or mirrorless camera into a webcam for meetings or for catching up with friends and family. We're going to talk about what this does, who this is for, some of its flaws, but more specifically, we're going to try to answer the question, is this a viable option for streaming into places like Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, for any content creation? Before diving into it though, real quick, if you're new here, I post weekly videos about photography and videography just like this video. So if that's something that you're into, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified whenever I post brand new videos. With that out of the way, let's move on with the video. So this is gonna be a pretty straightforward video, nothing too fancy. For the past few weeks, I've been testing and tweaking a lot of this software, and every time I had a question about anything concerning this, I turned to Google and YouTube and I just couldn't seem to find most of the answers that I was searching for. So this is sort of to fill that gap, and keeping in mind that during the time of this recording, the application is actually in beta, so things will most likely change in the future. Things will be tweaked and most likely upgraded. So if you are listening to this at a later date, just know that some things might have changed. So just to give you guys a bit of context, I started looking into live streaming a few months ago, and at the time I really wanted to find a way to be able to use my camera and lenses for the live streams. I didn't want to have to buy a webcam, and I definitely didn't want to use the integrated webcam from my laptop because I just knew that I'd be able to get far better results from using the gear I already had. Most of my research kept sending me back to the same product, the Elgato Camlink, which seems to be a pretty popular option for this. It's basically a little device that you plug your camera into it via HDMI, and then that plugs into your computer. It's supposed to be great, tons of streamers use this, but ever since the current world events that we're gonna call it, this thing's been out of stock and basically unfindable. Other similar options exist, but for the most part were fairly expensive. But then Canon came out with its free EOS Webcam Utility. Not to be confused with the already existing EOS Utility, which simply lets you connect your camera via USB to your computer and lets you remote shoot for photography. The EOS Webcam Utility lets you connect your camera to your computer in the same fashion, but then lets you use it as a video feed. It's completely free, and it only requires the USB cable that already came with your camera. You just download the driver, plug in your camera, set it up in whatever program you're using, and that's it. It just works. It's a truly inexpensive way to set up a video call or even perhaps a stream. Not every Canon camera is compatible, but you can look that up online, and I'm sure they're going to be adding to the roster as time goes on. Now let's take a look at who this is aimed for. Canon came out with this just a few weeks after the event that shall not be named started, and it was clearly designed to help people get better quality out of their Zoom meetings or Skype calls without having to buy a brand new webcam, just using something you already owned. Which is crazy cool because honestly, I don't think anyone has bought a Canon camera specifically for the fact that this application came out. That means that all the time and money and resources that was spent making this product in such a short amount of time was 100% dedicated to just add value to their existing customers and just make the world a better place. So while I might have some gripes with some of the features and some of the things that I'll be talking about throughout this video, I just wanted to make it very clear that my use case and streaming in general is definitely not what this thing was made for, so take any of the following criticism with a grain of salt. In terms of using this for a webcam solution, I don't really have much to say about it. It works. Let's be honest, most people are still FaceTiming with their cell phone's crappy front-facing camera, so anything better than that wins in my books. If having better quality video for your calls is a priority to you, definitely look into this. This is a great option. Most of the videos that have come out about this basically just run you through how to set this up, so if that's something that you're looking for, just do a quick search and you'll be able to find those pretty easily. Now, as much as this product theoretically does everything it's supposed to do right, there are a few flaws, and that's really what I wanted to dig into throughout this video. This is where it can get a bit complicated, and I'm kind of confused at the fact that no one seems to really be talking about these issues inside of their videos. My main gripe with this entire application is the fact that The signal that comes from your camera through the USB into your computer does not contain any audio. This means you've got to rig your audio somehow. I'm kind of blown away that this isn't being talked more about because honestly, what's a video call or what's a stream if you can't hear anything of what you're saying? I'd even argue that good audio is more important than good visuals. Whether you're talking to a friend, whether you're in a meeting, whether you're streaming, it's all the same. If you can't hear what's going on, it's just not gonna work. The first time I streamed, I just couldn't figure it out. I couldn't figure how to get audio out of my camera into my streaming program, and I ended up using my webcam's integrated microphone, the integrated webcam of my computer, which has terrible audio, but it was either that or not be able to stream at all. But I've done a lot of digging since and I've figured some stuff out, so although most of these things are far from ideal in my own opinion, here's what I found works. So the most ideal scenario is always going to be having a completely separate rig set up for audio. Either like a USB mic that you can plug directly into your computer, or a microphone that you're able to plug into an interface, or a mixer that then plugs into your computer. Not everyone's got this sort of a setup lying around though, and this sort of equipment can tend to get pretty expensive, so if you were looking into the EOS Webcam Utility as a way to save on buying a webcam, well, you might actually be better off buying a webcam than actually investing into proper audio gear. That being said, if your camera has a headphone output, the type of output that lets you monitor your audio, you're able to actually run a cable from your camera to your computer using a TRRS cable. It's absolutely gotta be one of these cables, the ones with the 3 rings. That's what I was missing when I was doing my initial testing. Most computers will work with this directly into the headphone jack. If you've got a desktop computer, there's usually a microphone input that you can plug it into from there. But ideally, you're running it into some sort of audio interface, even if it's like a $20 USB audio interface that you bought off Amazon like I did. Most digital cameras have pretty terrible onboard audio, but if that's all you've got, it's still better than nothing. If you've got a shotgun mic or a microphone that you already use for your video work, then you can plug your microphone into the computer in the same way, again, using a TRRS cable. Or you can send your microphone into your camera as you normally would, and then from there, you take a cable from your camera's headphone jack into your computer. This is especially great if you don't have any other way of controlling the volume of your microphone, as you're able to use the preamps within your camera to adjust the levels. This is definitely the way I recommend if you've got some sort of a shotgun mic or external microphone and you don't have a real interface to actually plug into. It kind of sucks that there isn't a way to get the audio directly out of the USB cable, but that's just the way she goes, at least for now. Like I said, I didn't own any of the specific TRRS cables that I needed to do this when I first started my testing, but it was still cheaper for me to buy a couple of these cables and a cheap USB interface than buying a cam link if those were even in stock. Now let's talk about the video quality. So this is the exact same setup as I've been using for the rest of the video, but right now I'm actually streaming through Streamlabs OBS on my laptop, and this is how it looks. Main thing to notice, you are capped at 720p resolution. That's the main drawback when it comes to the quality out of the EOS Webcam Utility. You can set up your camera to be in 1080p, you can set it up to be in 4K, but ultimately, when it runs through into the computer, it's only gonna give you a 720p result. The video that you're watching should be mentioning that it's a 1080p video, but this portion here was actually just upscaled from 720, so it's actually just a stretched out 720p image into a 1080p timeline. It probably doesn't look just as good as the footage you were watching up until this point, but it's probably not all that terrible either. The main difference would be if you were planning on streaming in 4K, then stretching out 720p video into a 4K timeline will definitely start to show. So as this probably doesn't look as good as the rest of the footage that you've been watching, it's still probably better looking than what you can get out of a lot of the webcams out there, especially if we're looking into more budget-friendly options. And then one thing's for sure, being able to use a DSLR or mirrorless camera with interchangeable lenses and being able to use a lens like this that lets you have a really shallow depth of field is definitely going to yield a look that you really can't get out of a webcam. These resolution limitations might be a deal breaker for a lot of people, but for most people it actually might not be that big of a deal. Unless you're streaming your camera to the full size of your screen, it's probably not really gonna matter so much. If you're using this simply to do conference calls or video calls with friends or family or for work, the more people you actually have on this call, it's gonna split up the screen anyways, and you're most likely not gonna notice the difference between a 720p image or a 1080p image, that's for sure. As for other scenarios where it wouldn't really matter, if you're streaming a video game, for example, which I know is what a lot of streamers are actually doing, and you've only got the video feed as a small portion of your screen and you've got the gameplay be the rest of the screen, 720p is going to be more than enough. Even if you're streaming in 4K, 720p is still going to be a lot larger than you actually need to have a small video feed of yourself in the corner. The few streams that I did while testing all of this out was me just editing some photos in Lightroom and then just hanging out, having a small video feed in the corner and kind of interacting with people, kind of how this looks right now. And yeah, the quality is great for this kind of size. That being said, if you're thinking of streaming to the entire screen and want the absolute best quality, it's just not gonna look as good as your camera can offer. And if you were wanting to stream in full screen 4K, you can forget about that, no bueno. This thing is just not gonna work. Stretched out 720p into a 4K timeline, as I said earlier, is going to look horrible. Video capture cards definitely have the advantage here. All right, let's jump back into the regular setup. Couple rapid fire things aside from that. So first, there's a slight lag between the camera and the video feed that's being sent into your computer. It's not that big of a deal, you just have to be aware of it. If you're using a USB-C connection, it's not gonna be too bad. If you're using any other type of USB connection, it's probably gonna be a bit more of a lag, but once again, it's not that big of a deal. Just thought you guys should be made aware of it. And with that in mind, if you're using any sort of an external microphone or sending audio into your computer separately, you're most likely going to have to delay that audio for it to match up and sync with your video. This is common practice anyways, regardless of the setup you have, but just know this is something you're probably going to have to do. This is the sort of thing that's really easy to set up in the program. And lastly, I've seen a lot of people online with this exact issue, so I'm going to talk about it just in case you weren't aware of it. Essentially, if you've got the EOS Utility app installed as well as the EOS Webcam Utility, it's most likely going to cause some issues between the two. I had to completely uninstall the EOS Utility app for it to start working properly, which for me isn't really a problem, but if this is an application that you rely on the daily, it kind of sucks, but hopefully Canon is going to fix this in the near future. All right, so after all of that being said, is the EOS Webcam Utility a viable option for live streaming? Yes and no. It kind of depends on you. It depends on what you're actually streaming. It depends on the quality that you're looking to achieve. It also depends on what kind of an audio setup you're able to rig up with it. Because again, I do think that great audio is better than great visuals to a certain extent, but that's going to be the case regardless of the way you are filming yourself. But in terms of strictly upping the video quality of your streams with something you probably already own, this is definitely a great way to do so on the cheap, dare I say, for free. Did I mention it's free? But honestly, if you do have the money to invest into it and these things ever do come back in stock, I really do think that capture cards like the Elgato Camlink are the way to go. The fact that you're able to stream with your camera up to 4K and you're able to have the audio go right through the HDMI cable into your computer is definitely something that I'll be looking forward to, and I'll probably be getting one of these for myself as soon as I can. But that's it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know in the comments below if you plan on trying this out, or if you have been using this, let me know what your experience has been like. As always, if you've got any questions, you can leave them in the comments below as well. I'll be sure to respond. I've been doing so much testing on this thing that if there is an answer to be given about this particular product, I probably will have it for you. With that being said, I hope you guys got some value out of this video. If you did, be sure to give it a big old thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. That's it. I'm out. Peace.